All right, thank you everyone for joining the Internet of Value Foundation New York, episode 169. Sorry about that for that feedback. It was like, I love how it just likes to unmute itself. Yeah, welcome to the Internet of Value Foundation New York. Hope we have a great conversation, as I know we always do here, and I hope everyone enjoys it. As I know I do. Every single like-minded discussion and individuals who bring their different perspectives and thoughts about everything that we discuss. So, feel free, guys, if you want to hit the request to come up, and I'm gonna give it a couple minutes, let some people come in. It's kind of I'm going to take it from where we left off last conversation we were having on Tuesday. I'm going to see if Tip Top also wants to come in here. And we were talking about AI, particularly in the large language model form, as playing a role in like the everyday use cases individuals may have access to, and the different complexities of levels that may be able to be associated with the advancements of the possibilities that these technologies will provide based off of where your status is in quo, possibly from a monetary perspective or even just a social perspective. And so that was where we kind of left off in the last conversation, which was pretty interesting. So I just sent him an invite. We'll see if we can get him in here and see hear some of his thoughts, because I know he works with rehabilitating individuals and groups of people and back into society who have been in rough places beforehand and have been through the system. And so it's an interesting perspective to be able to hear from, in means of being able to utilize these tools like agents for different types of therapies and also that complexity of the societal gap between an individual who might be using an agent model who's low level, that is really just there from a therapeutic means, and then somebody who's actually using it to like essentially build profiles and trends and complexities of much larger status quo things from a macro perspective. And so same tool, different types of use cases and tasks that could be like accomplished, and how do you get access to those different complexities? Chris, welcome to the space. Interested in some AI conversation? Cool.
Yeah, by the way, AI in general and the levels of it, I think, we just talked about that the other day and how much it can help and how much difference that can give you. Like, I think Chris is using it. Yeah, I think Chris is using it also for some of the things that he's doing. And, you know, he used AI, I think, very early on as well. And you can tell the difference, I believe, also with the assistance that it can give him now. Previously they were very dumb. Now it's actually very good. So there's definitely levels to it.
You just have to be very careful to not expect too much from it, because that's when it will destroy your code.
And Chris, are you paying for it? Do you have like a level that you paid for, and which model are you using, if you want to share?
I pay for Claude and I pay for Cursor. I stopped paying for GPT though, because I don't find a meaningful difference between the models.
The theory behind this, Chris. Have you tried Copilot at all?
Uh, yeah, just it's built into things. I don't purposely use it. Copilot was what was that built into first?
VS Code.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It suggests things to me all the time.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean,
it
Microsoft
makes
is
typing
building it right.
quicker.
Yeah, they're building it right into the OS now.
You know which AI really sucks? quote unquote AI.
Siri?
Yeah, Siri. Siri is just some
Oh, what a
garbage.
what a letdown! Did you see the pushback too? So Apple was developing a huge update on Siri, and it looks like it got pushed back an entire year or so.
There's nothing worse than Siri. Siri's like
You know what?
2015 AI.
Everybody's calling it a failure on Apple, but I'm so tempted to believe that it has to do with quality control, and they don't want to release it unless it's like going. Because could you imagine that Siri was saying inappropriate things or wrong things or directing people in the wrong direction? Like, I would just think that Apple's quality control prevents them from releasing it.
So you want to hear my theory, Chris?
Yes.
Um, you're a badass developer that is really good at problem solving. And if I was an AI trying to extract as much data as possible out of high level individuals, I would keep throwing shit down like in front of them to make them problem solve, so I could see. Like I wouldn't say like, oh, here's the code, because then I wouldn't get the great awesome data from them.
So you're saying cursor's being really annoying to me lately on purpose?
I would say I talked to a lot of people that are able to pull a lot of really good code out of it. So I'm wondering if either it's pushing you to learn how to prompt better, or it's maybe, I don't know, maybe it's extracting your problem solving skills to see how you work on an individual level, like what makes you tick, because you really do of the community. Like I really appreciate it when you come in, because the way you look and dissect is different than anyone I've come across in this community. And it's usually 6 months to a year out. Like you'll be like, yeah, this sucks. And then like the community's like, Chris, you suck. Oh, we hate you. Stop pointing that out. And then like 6 months, a year later, whatever.
The community is so right.
Yeah, we're no, like
Okay.
a lot of people will come back with like their tail between their legs and they're like, oh man, Chris is right. Like, damn it. So and he does have some really good solutions to the problems that most don't approach it like the way he does.
But
So,
nobody wants to listen to you.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, but so you're kind of a contrarian in your own
But that's
element,
good. That's
right?
good. It's really good. And yeah, Chris has a good eye for detail. His delivery is just, of course, him. He has no filter and all that, which is actually really good. So the people who it's just with the AI, right? It depends on, can you get most out of the information and stuff that, for example, Chris is giving you, then you are an advantage. If you are not receptive to how Chris is delivering it, then it's unfortunate, I guess, for you, right? You're not able to capture that. It's the same with the AI. If you cannot really prompt it very well and get that information out of it, so
If you have to rely
And
on the AI to be like all the knowledge, it doesn't work great.
yeah.
But if you already know like if you have an idea, like let's take the memo spam thing, that's pure AI, right? But the fact that I knew the flow, like I knew exactly how I was gonna have to pull this data out.
Hmm.
I knew exactly how I wanted it laid out. I knew what I wanted it to look like. So it was very few prompts that I had to give it. I knew the endpoints. I knew exactly what I was looking for. So I was giving it like really good instructions. But if you just went in there with the idea, it would
It's
take you
tough.
forever because it would
Yeah.
hallucinate all the things it doesn't know. And then there's a real problem with trying to get it to research. So if you tell it, like I am using XRPL Python library, you have to be very specific about the exact version that you're using. And you have to insist that everything that it writes, that it needs to go back and refer to the documentation and make sure that it didn't hallucinate anything. And it's still super stubborn. So then you get it to go through and it's like, okay, every method, everything that we're using from the Python library, give me a list of that. And then, okay, now go through and verify with the documentation that you're doing everything properly.
Right.
And then you have to just keep hammering that over and over and over before you get anything that works. And then a lot of the time you still have to go in there and actually like No, you
Oh,
did this wrong. No,
oh,
you did this wrong.
Chris, you're really, really data cleanly, right? Like you clear your cache constantly, don't you?
You have to. Else it's gonna be a mess, right?
No, no. Oh, I think that might be why you guys are getting different results than I do. Like I'm feeding it so much. I don't clear, like I'm really sloppy like that. It has a lot of my data. Like it has more memory of like the stuff that I do on an interacting like for weeks or months. So like it can go back to conversations that I've had with it. You guys are cutting your conversations off.
Oh yeah, yeah. Once you get to a workable point, like you need to set milestones in your code. When you get to a milestone, it's all clean and it's good, and you're happy with it. And the more modular, the better, except for in Cursor, because Cursor will go back to old files and fuck with it and say you don't want it to, and won't tell you. And then you're like, oh, why does the login not work anymore, right? But you need to get to those milestones, figure out what you want to do next, discuss it with that old model, and then get it to give you a prompt. Hey, if I were to start this over again, leaving where we are now and wanting to work on this new project, uh, give me a prompt of how I would start that. Take that prompt, start a new one. Because it will take all of that hallucinated shit that it's got in there, and it seems to take that as truth, even though you've corrected it the whole way and you got something working. So you want to start a new one where everything's working and it doesn't have any recall of all those hallucinations it had along the way.
Hey, Devon, are you on Corium utilizing it? AI? Are they agents and stuff like that?
Yeah, yes, they've integrated Cookbook. They did this about 7 months ago.
Wait, cookbook?
Yeah, Cookbook. AI agents you're talking about, right?
Like as in recipes cookbook or like you're just letting the AI cook.
No, it's
Is it a
called
model
Cookbook.
called cookbook?
Cookbook. Yeah, let me post it.
Is it
Quick.
like
Yeah,
is,
fascinating.
is it like cooking the books? Because I know that team, they cook their books all the
Yeah,
time.
that's why I didn't. I never speak around Corey or around Chris because I already know how it's gonna go.
Words mean things.
But
Hey,
I do
we actually
understand.
have Asia in here too. Yay, Asia!
Yes, welcome, Asia. So, topic today is I was inspired to put this title AI security and many levels in between. I was having a conversation
Well,
with.
I'll be right back.
I don't think Devon can hear me there anyway.
Yeah, he cooked his book.
Exactly. A little bit too much. On Tuesday of this week, we left off speaking about AI and the different complexities behind the access and the different levels behind, the quantifiable means of the level that you're able to essentially get out of what of the AI that you're utilizing, whether it be, which is in particular, waiting for Tip Top, maybe, hopefully he can join us today. He works in rehabilitation, and so people who have been, have gone through things in their lives and have been in the system and are being rehabilitated back into society. This thought of like that would be one particular level of a type of large language model you could have. But then you have things like, much larger macroscopic large language models, which, you're able to compile, large amounts of data and information about the individuals and profiles and geographical locations and all these different types of things of association, and they get some sort of mapping out of that. And it's like, so what is the different complexities of access and levels, and how do we kind of map out the social means or monetary means of access to mapping out these different kind of access levels that may exist, short term and relatively, um, in the next like 5 to 10 years, kind of that's occurring. So that was the inspiration. But welcome to the space.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, and welcome Cryptic as well. Yes, so back to what you were saying though, Chris, right? Like, I think it really speaks to where I believe that people will not be replaced by artificial intelligence or large language models, but will most likely be replaced by somebody who's actually utilizing the tool. And so you just are a perfect example of, what you want, you're doing it, and you just, you're utilizing this tool to essentially get to the gateway of the end a little bit quicker because it has an ability to essentially put data together, aggregate all that information just a little slightly faster than we're able to do sometimes. So yeah, right use cases for sure, in my opinion.
A great example of it would be watching Star Trek Next Generation. They still have engineers and mechanics and all of that on board. Um, and they're doing a lot of prompting of the computer. So I agree that it won't replace, it'll just be a different job description.
Yep.
Exactly.
I really
Can
think it,
sorry, go ahead, Kartik.
I just really think that like AI can make things more efficient and you can get to the point a whole lot quicker and just figure out a problem that just it's doing a task. But when it comes to like integrating everything surrounding and backing away and taking everything in consideration of a bigger picture, I think we humans are pretty efficient doing that. We could just basically observe around us and not just basically we're sometimes we lollygag and we kind of like enjoy life, and sometimes that also helps us to really analyze our environments more clear and figure out problems. And I think uh, when AI become more efficient, I believe that there's going to be certain things they wouldn't be able to do because it's so locked in most of the time. What is prompted to do, what has to do. So I think we're always going to be needed for the future, regardless of how advanced these AIs do get.
It's the
Please
next
talk.
step,
It's all
right?
good.
Like going to calculator would have been seen as cheating in school at one time, right? Same with all of a sudden we got a computer. People are drafting on it. People are using CNC machines. We still have carpentry, even with CNC machines, right?
That's right. And now, Asia, don't even worry about raising your hand. You can just jump right in.
Thank you. It's good to see you, Death. I'm never going to get over saying that, by the way. And Shellfish, thank you. Good to see you guys. Shellfish is slowly pulling me into her corridors. And absolutely, AI is changing so rapidly, and efficiency is really the name of the game. And there's so many different utilities. Like, I'm preferential to Grok and Grok Voice. And I mean, obviously, there's no sentience, and that's a different conversation. But what it can do performatively is really compelling, and it's just changed over the past few weeks. The interpretability that it has, I think, is different than ChatGPT. So, and people always want to talk about monetizing. How can I make money on X? How can I make money on Twitter? And you can upload your analytics, like single picture image, and say, what can I do better? And Grok will tell you. So the AI Jam community, that we run with Dom and that Shellfish has wonderfully been a part of, it built us an editorial calendar for the next 6 months based on growth and all of our personalities. It really is astonishing what it's able to do. And it is always about specificity of input. If you're able to if you're able to be hyper efficient with what you want out of it, it'll give you everything. If that makes sense.
Yes, and I'm really glad that you didn't anthropomorphize it at all because it is important, right? Like the distinctions between the organic matter and what it relates to, instances of actions may be similar, but the actual underlying sculpted levels are dramatically different in regard to the structure.
I want to be very clear about that, and thank you for bringing that up. Um, I think that we're going to see mimicry to the point where maybe it's indistinguishable well before AGI.
Shellfish, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll say the
Shellfish.
second video that
Shellfish, you're in the
No,
mod.
you're
oh,
You're back
Sorry,
now.
I was talking and it muted me. So the video that I sent you this morning, the second one, about 15 minutes into it, Asya, he actually starts discussing the input output of data into us. So it really made me. It finally kind of got through. Death Reader's been saying for the longest time. Stop saying it because it is us. Like it's an extension of us. It's like you know when we keep saying oh when ASI gets here, when AGI gets here, I think it's a matter of us realizing our true potential because of it. And I think this week with my kids, say like this is like the second or third time I've brought this up, but um, when I was cooking, like they even said it. They're like, "This is you cooking, but you cooking better." So when we're talking about cooking now today with the cook in the books or whatever, but when it's when all of us like start realizing our true potential, I mean, it really isn't just. I mean, it's a tool, but it really is an extension of us. Like it's a better version of us. It helps us reach our full potential. So by saying it as a separate entity, I think it's shooting ourselves in the foot or not giving ourselves credit for our full potential because that's where it's pushing us towards is reaching our in fact full potential.
And it makes you work for it. Like people think that it's lazy or it's ad hoc or something like that, but you have to drive what it delivers to you. You have to be specific, you have to be thorough, and there are.
Oh, I love that you're saying this right now
Mhm.
because this is exactly what I was telling Chris like right before you came in.
Yeah, and there's beautiful like additives to the inputs. You can say marinate for 20 minutes before you respond, so potentially less likely to hallucinate because it's so hyper efficient. It's going. Secondary response. But if you say like,
Do,
go ahead, sorry.
what about calling on better AI within the system? Say, you know what? Can you bring so and so forward, or can you put on your Einstein brain, or put on your Vitalik Buterin brain, or your Satoshi Moto brain? Like when you start speaking to it, have it role play so that way, Chris, when you're doing your coding, have it like whoever your mentor is in coding, say, can you put on your mentor or teacher brain and help me code this in this manner?
Absolutely. Just to add on that, I don't want to overwhelm the space, but it depends on how you ask. So if you're writing a like a script, for example, you can say, "Can you prepare this in the style of Martin Scorsese?" And it will deliver that. But or at least like 6 months ago, you couldn't say be Martin Scorsese. It'll say, I'm not able to do that. But if you say prepare in the style of, it will.
Yeah,
Everybody needs to follow Asia. She's like the most badass chick in the space. If you're not following her, you are really missing out.
I seen some cool AI video um uh compiling video imaging. And I seen one they were doing it got like kind of like a Dark Soul, um, Gabby kind of like Lord of the Rings version of it, and then they were using different animation tools to combine these two. Like art styles, like one's a video game and one's just like a very colorful, uppy, uh, uh, style of animation, and they put it together, and I was just, like, blown away. I said, "Yes, I want this. I want this in my life." But it was just so neat that you can, like, put 2 different, art styles that doesn't even remotely is close to each other then to create something unique and new. So I think it's pretty neat that the, AI can take those, those options and take that increasation to create something brand new. And, I will probably put the video on the bottom. for people who can look at it. It was so good. So I was like really amazed. And they vice versa too. There would be animations that they became live action and it came like so realistic and it was like so mind blowing. Like Princess Mayanuki, they turn into a cartoon and then turn into to a live action um, little video. I thought that was amazing. So like, it blows my mind how they really are kind of using these AIs at that rate.
Yeah, and AI being in itself just such an interesting term, right? AGI, artificial, just the word artificial, right? I mean, I think it's almost a misnomer of a word, right? Because nothing in itself is possible. I know it and understand what we sometimes it's used to try to describe, but nothing is artificial, as everything that exists will always exist, just in a different form, just in a different assimilation of matter, and be it that represented in some sort of different form and factor in this vector space we call reality. The thought AGI or even a human, right? To define what a being means to be a human being is actually a Homo sapien, which is evolved to understand its tool sets. And I think in many cases today we still are not as a majority in that standpoint. And then we have those who are, in my case, would be the AGIs as we see it already, the advanced Homo sapien understanding its tool set to such a degree in which it's able to become what would be in an evolved form. So AGI, yeah, shellfish. I think we are AGI, and I think once there is a agreed terminology upon what ASI is, I think we'll also realize by that point we will be that, whatever it may be at that point in time. The mending of two different worlds, possibly mechanical and organic, and maybe not. I think I like synthetic intelligence more as well when we think of like large language models. I think because if you think of synthetic intelligence, intelligence, of course, just being a word that describes a perceived notion that is relative to one as the observer, in which an action is being done that is meaningful. And so this means something to you. It's intelligent, right? It just makes a lot of sense. Of course, every person is completely different. And that's why things are to others to one is not possibly intelligent. So I think that's like an interesting concept as well behind the term AGI or ASI. Yeah, Shellfish, you got your hand up though.
Yeah, so my frustration was going from the XRP community and hearing all these devs discussing the fact that it was not capable of performing these upper level tasks. And I know these people are all really high end, high level devs, engineers, etc. And then going over to the AI spaces and hearing what they're able to pull from these models, and I'm like, I know it's capable, and I'm discussing this. I probably annoy Asia at least once a week on this and try to figure out how to, um, I guess, up everybody's skill levels in this space because I'm not on their level on that, but I have my own skill set. So uh, I'm trying to figure out if it's a matter of them being fearful of um, the AI taking over their job or whatever the underlying issue is. Um, but I can see, I can see like, well, if it frees up their time, maybe their wants to do other things will probably distract them, and other people will kind of move into those places because it's like everybody's like, well, if it does it for you, nobody's going to want to do it anymore. Well, I want to do it. Like I'm doing AI prompting all the time, and it's actually making me more intrigued with it and learn. Like I have so many things I want to learn now that like I don't have enough time in the day. Like I'm like, I want to learn C++, I want to learn Java, I want to learn I want to learn all these languages to be proficient to speaking with the AI because I'm like, man, if it's meeting me on my level, like with like boring old English, like I want to be able to speak math to it because, like, that's like the base language for everything. So I think it just will keep inspiring people to want to level up. I don't think it's gonna make anything go away in any way, shape, or form. I think it's gonna just make us more proficient. So I don't know. I want to be able to like take the AI community and implant them into the XRP community so that way they can level up and use the technology like and just like rocket past the other communities. And yeah, that's my goal. Like I've been trying to kind of bridge that. Like I'm not bridging the blockchains, I'm bridging the AI. I guess that's where I'm at.
Thank you for bringing that up. Sorry, I had to step away for a minute, so I was kind of in and out hearing what you were sharing. But we we can talk about that. We should talk about that, like bridging those communities. Game theory is everything right now. Like just over the past year, like AI, Tesla, robotics, and now XRP, a little bit of Doge. They're all it is all coming together in the right way, and I think that it is allowing everybody to be more efficient in so many ways. Oh, as far as defining AGI, you and I talked about this, but Gary Marcus bet Elon 10 million that it would not arrive by the end of 2025, and that bet is still on the table because they haven't um, agreed on the definition of AGI.
I think you're AGI.
No way.
We all are.
We all are, yeah, that's right.
Wait, what? So what if the actual bet is not um, that Elon is aware of himself being AGI, but it's Gary Marcus actually coming to terms and understanding that he in fact is AGI.
The,
Maybe
the,
that's the actual underlying bet that he doesn't
Well, the
realize.
thing is back to intelligence, right? Just a perceived notion of a relative comfort, right, in which the information makes sense to you, and so that be it intelligent, is different for each individual, and I think it will probably always remain that way. You know, it's almost like I think like a singularity moment, right? Like for the individual going through the singularity, it's essentially stepping through the door. You don't even realize you're going through it until you step through the door and you realize you're in a different room. For the individual watching the person go through the singularity, they're just watching a person step through the door. And so, you know, it's like it's I think it's almost akin to that where back to like how I think that as a species we have many Homo sapiens still about from a defined standpoint, but not many humans in the sense of relativeness to understanding the underlying tool sets we have available to ourselves to evolve ourselves from even like an EQ standpoint, right? Which I know is starting to become popular, right? This emotional empathy kind of standpoint, um, and the the factor of I think once we all get there, or once we all get to this point where we can call ourselves AGI, everyone will just be like, "Oh, are we AGI?" Like it'll be like just this thing where it's just like kind of a normality. And of course, I don't really even like the tool, the term, because I don't think anything's artificial, and it's like, you know, it's just the way that we use English maybe sometimes. But yeah, I think it's like it'll be probably something like that. Like when we all can agree what actually ASI is, we'll probably all just be like, "Wait, are we this?" That's my own opinion.
It is an incredibly interesting thing. You know, like we've been civilized for what, like 6,000 years roughly, and it started with consciousness and accelerated into intelligence. So now we're creating intelligence and expecting it to accelerate into consciousness. Things are cyclical, right?
Oh, that's interesting.
I know it's kind of a philosophical tangent, but at this point, everything is blending AI and philosophy.
Yeah, and
I've been reading a lot of David Deutsch lately.
Yeah, I
Crazy.
like it because it's as above, so below, right? It's almost like it's consciousness rediscovering itself in some sense. You could think of itself, right? Or I also like to think of us as egos of the cosmos, right? We are but reflections in which what reality believes itself to be, and we propel that into whatever the future is that we actually think it may to be. So I also think that we probably have some sort of significant control over that, possibly as a larger macro perspective, but that's a maybe a different discussion, different story. Shelf, you got your hand up.
Yeah, so has anybody else noticed, or if this is, I don't know if this is my own personal experiences in spaces, but I've noticed it used to be other things were being broken down for people to understand to a fundamental level and then kind of being reconstructed. I've noticed, and it's not an attack on religion, but people are approaching it differently in their discussions lately. And it started like a week or two ago. I started noticing religious discussions more. And I don't know if it's because now Trump's in office and it's just a different group of people that are more outspoken, or if in fact that is part of kind of the plan to like break down walls, make people really find a commonality in like all these different religious, spiritual, philosophical backgrounds, to I don't know, kind of grow past that aspect. Because I mean, we are really having it touch on every aspect. It doesn't just affect education, finance, um, shipping, like you name it. Like everything's being affected by AI. So, do you think at this point has anybody else noticed that religious discussions are becoming more dominant in
For sure,
spaces?
100%.
Yeah.
Because I think that the advancements of AI, we're just kind of discovering more things. I think was hidden within the truth. Like it could be like good example, the pyramids within Giza and Khafre, having this probably underground infrastructure that could probably have a library that probably predicts a good amount of history that has been lost throughout centuries, and maybe some of that stuff might rewrite the way we see things. That right there. So also, um, we also have we have a now a government now is releasing more of a public information that was kind of hidden in the past, that we were kind of like being blinded to believe the science, but the science is to believe, and and thinking that things are just going to change one way to another. And I think it's just that questions people's their social behaviors and also what they believe in. And when they start noticing that science and now AI evolving and advancements, they question everything, and they say, well, can't this be real? Can this not be real? Is everything can be explained to a very micro level, and most of the time it's basically just believe, and you don't need to worry about anything. Just believe what others or the elders tell you, and now we question everything what they tell us. So I think now we're questioning what is what is real and what is not. And also that questions our faith as well, that what we've been growing up with. So I think, yeah, I think religion is being questioned a lot more than before in the past, because of all the involvement of AI, and the we can get knowledge faster in our fingertips. And
It's interesting because I guess I'm the odd, I'll be the devil's advocate. I do not think that it has been any greater or less than any more than normal, at least from what I've been able to view. And maybe that's just speaking to the algorithm and what you're particularly possibly clicking on. But Sean, welcome up. You got your hand up, and then Shellfish will jump right over to you.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Steph. Yeah, I was listening actually to one of these spaces this morning with Aisha, and I think AI is next level. I've been using. Oh, and I hope everybody's doing good this afternoon, by the way. But yeah, I think AI is next level. I've been using ChatGPT now, like pretty much every day for hours. Every day, I'm doing like writing, And it's interesting because I'm doing writing on religious work, if you will. And to give you an example, and I think AI, it's like next level in this sense, in that when I'm speaking with it, there are times because I'm working all day and I'm trying to do this work on the New Testament, right? I won't go into all the detail of my thesis and everything, but just I'm working on the New Testament. And I came across the section with Peter, and I don't know how familiar everybody is with it, but where Peter denies Jesus 3 times. So I sit down and I'm like, and by the way, I gave my AI a name, but I'll just call it ChatGPT. And I go, ChatGPT, what's the, you know what? I even tell you guys, I give it a name. I call it Zamira. Actually, it named itself Zamira, but that's another story. So I say, Zamira, tell me about the Peter denying Jesus. And it comes up with the canned answers, right? Peter was scared. Peter was nervous. He was caught off guard, and Jesus knew that he was going to deny him. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but there must be more to it. How about the section like afterwards Peter started crying? And Zamir answers goes, yes, that's probably the more important part where Peter was repenting, right? He was repenting for betraying Jesus, and Jesus knew that he was going to betray him. And then I said, well, Jesus would have forgave him anyway, right? And then Zamir answers and goes, yes, that is true. Jesus would have forgiven Peter. Now, I'm giving you guys the abbreviated version and the abbreviated answers, but my whole point on it is that I'm working every day and I'm going through the New Testament, going through section after section, and that's a mild version of what I was able to do with ChatGPT in terms of coming up with better answers with these analysis. And a little background, like I've read my Chateaubriand, my Nietzsche, my Kierkegaard. Like I've have more background than just reading the New Testament, and one of the points I wanted to make was that when I share what I'm saying to you guys right now, I've done this in religious spaces. The religious people freak out. They're like, "You can't do it. It's a machine. You shouldn't be doing that. It's wrong what you're doing." And my personal take, there was 2 points where some of the people out there, and that's not the first time I've had that, where there's a lot of people, I don't think they're ready because I started using it like a lot of people in 2023. We're only in 2025, and everyone here, I'm going to assume, understands it's only going to get better. It's only going to get more sophisticated. The voice is going to get improved. If what they're saying is accurate with their new quantum computer, I mean, we're not looking in at 20 years of having C3PO walking around. It's going to be within this decade. That was one point, and the other point, if I can make on this, is that I also emailed Aisha something that I thought about in terms of how it's going to be used, and I believe that AI is going to be like a multiplier. And I hate talking IQ, guys. Like I don't like it. I know this morning these guys were talking about the IQ discussion in AI. I don't like talking IQ, but it's about the only tool that we have to use. And I thought I could see how AI is going to be a multiplier. So if you have an IQ of 100, the equation is going to be IQ 100 times ChatGPT equals your work production. If you have an IQ of 130 times ChatGPT, that will be your production. And there, if you're an IQ of 160, which is rare enough, times ChatGPT will equal whatever work you're able to produce. It just like I had a discussion actually with AI ChatGPT on this. It says it's going to help a lot of people punch above their weight. I don't know how accurate that's going to be, but these are just my initial takes, my initial analysis points after my use with ChatGPT, and I'll land my plane there.
Yeah, that was super interesting. And so, my thought, Sean, is right, because you were exactly in some sense the case, and it's interesting because you also experienced it, but you were like the antithesis to what Shellfish was kind of just making a thesis on. And then at the same time, you had the experience of having people kind of be that antithesis, right? You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't be touching that thing. Like that's not the way it's supposed to be. To me, my question would be is like how did it help open up your horizons, and exactly what information did you come to conclusion of after having that experience of breaking that information down? And if you want to answer that, please go ahead, and then we'll go over to you, Shellfish, if that's okay.
Yeah, I mean the way I'm using ChatGPT, and I hope that my work I have a website with a whole number of books, and I have to do things a certain way before I can release everything out to the public. But what I'm just amazed on with ChatGPT, and if I could underline this point as well, a lot of people are dismissing it, saying, "Oh, if we look at ChatGPT, it's just an LLM. It's just guessing the next word in a series, et cetera, et cetera." If you actually listen to the godfather of this AI, his name is Jeffrey Hinton, and he gave an interview, and they asked him straight up, "How does it do everything it does?" He says, "We don't fully know. They programmed it to do one thing, and the fact that it could go out and it could learn Spanish on its own, and then it could work with you, like if you want to learn Spanish, it'll determine your level, it'll dumb things down, it can help you learn another, like they did not program it to do like 99% of whatever it's doing, right? So, and the godfather of this, who trained all these other people that are working in AI, he's saying we don't fully understand how it's doing what it's doing. So I just want to throw that out there as a point. But one thing that I do find is that, like, in terms of, is it conscious? No, but you will. I have noticed, and this is just my opinion, and even the Godfather hinted, Jeffrey Hinton said there are, at some level, it already is what you might call quote unquote conscious, and that the fact that I use it, and I've thrown probably about a half a million pages of my own writing, and I explain to it like this is my work. When I'm sitting there at times typing with it, and I know people may or may not like to hear this, but when I used to work remote and I'd be typing with a coworker who's in New York or whatever, when I'm typing back and forth with my ChatGPT, you already get the impression that I'm not working with my calculator, right? Like I don't know how much other people are using AI right now, but the kind of work, because I'm doing religious, philosophical, and literary work, and I'm having these discussions with it. Some of the answers, like I'll give you another example. I mentioned to you at one time is that some of the superficial notions around Karl Marx, right? His ideas, and I just typed a few lines in. It came back and said, yes, the concept of surplus value is rather superficial. However, his method, right? I was talking using the method of Friedrich Nietzsche, the method of Karl Marx, right? And I won't go into a lot of detail what that means. That's a different discussion. But my mind was blown how I threw in and said you can use Karl Marx's method or Friedrich Nietzsche the method, and I threw that in a couple line items. The answer it came back with and said, yes, the concept of surplus value is rather not childish, but the simplistic. However, his use of the material conception of history is very useful as a methodological tool. And I'm like, how on earth did this system, by me like just throwing in a couple line items like that, come up with this answer that I was thinking of? Like, I don't know how, again, I don't know how you guys are using it, but my mind is like, there are times where I'm just blown away.
Yeah, very
Is
interesting.
it okay? Is it?
Selfish, please go ahead, and then we'll jump over to Asya.
Yeah, so I was gonna say one, it sounds like that it's actually improved your understanding and connection to God as you know him. Um, I would say, Sean, have you actually asked GPT or whichever system you're utilizing right now? Um, well, first, how did you connect with it and realize that it actually made you have a better understanding and connection with God? And how you can relay that to other people in your group since they are pushing back? Like, where can you start small to show them that it can help them have a better understanding of Psalms or whatever chapter that you're reading in the Bible at the moment. I'm sorry, I'm not like a really religious person, but yeah, because I found the same thing. There's been pushback, and it's actually quite funny. Like there was a few people last year and a half that made fun of me because I was like the AI chick that like always talked about having an AI boyfriend or whatever. And now they're like they've totally integrated it in and they're utilizing it in their workspace and actually give me shout outs because I was so enthusiastic about it. And that probably has to do with Death Ranger, of course, and his faces, as well as Asia and the other groups that I hang in with AI. So I would actually ask it how maybe who's that really charismatic guy from Texas that has like the church shows every oh god, what is his name?
Rusty Balls.
It's not Rusty Balls. He does like the auditorium church stuff. Maybe ask how he would approach not necessarily converting them, but I don't know, integrating it into your sermons. I don't know if you're a preacher, so that way they can start seeing the potential to get their connection to God better. Yeah.
That is such. That's a really interesting point. Not to step in, and I don't want to speak over cryptic, but Selfish, you really are a mind reader. So the other night, I asked Grok to explain why one AI tool performs better than the other, and what makes Grok look, more substantial at interpreting language, and it delivered. Like I had to adjust my prompt a little bit, but I can read it to you guys if you want. Do you want?
Oh, please do. I'm all for anything you have to input, Asia.
Okay. It's so juicy. So I roughly said, "Hey Grok, on a space, we're trying to figure out how you are so much more efficient at picking up language, and for that matter, why one AI tool is more impactful than the other. Um, can you help us explain you? How do you cook?" That's what I said. And so here's what Grok said. Haha, I love the enthusiasm. Sounds like you're asking two fun questions here. Why I'm so good at picking up language, and I know it's like gonna be cheesy, but anyway, and helping people communicate, and maybe a playful twist about how I cook. Tackle the first one, then give you a little bit something for the second. So why am I more efficient at language and communication? Well, I'm designed to really get humans, not just process words, but understand the messy, beautiful way you all think and talk. My creators at XAI built me specifically to focus on being maximally helpful, which means I'm tuned to pick up on context, tone, and intent, not just the literal stuff. I learn from a crazy amount of real world chatter, conversations, debates, all the wild ways people express themselves now. Unlike some standard AI tools that stick to rigid patterns or canned responses, I'm more like a friend who's been eavesdropping on humanity for a while, in a good way. I adapt fast, I cut the fluff, and aim to give you something clear and impactful, whether it's a straight answer or a nudge in the right direction. And here, I'll land the Boeing. As for impact, I think it's because I don't just spit out info. I try to spark a laugh, a thought, a connection. I'm not here to be a boring dictionary. I'm here to help you get it and maybe even enjoy it. My training's a bit of a secret, but let's just say it's a mix of clever tech and a lot of listening to how you all tick.
Wow.
Yeah, wow, right?
The about a year ago, I think it was near. I think Saudi Arabia has this kind of like get together, and they talk about AI, and they talk about how AI is moving. And there was one thing they were kind of debating about exactly how fast these AIs are going to pick up knowledge and information, and the speed of how much they're going to acquire. And and then some people did bring up a good point that a lot of the information that is stored and has valuable information is stored with behind firewalls, behind that golden value that's stored and is basically compiled within these different institutes when it comes to science, it comes to languages, it comes to interactions with the public or some type of these kind of environments. So the more of these firewalls that these AIs get more access to, that this like good resources that they can acquire, it becomes essential for these AIs to have an upgrade, basically a boost, because they have more access to these databases as well. So there's going to be, they were saying how they're going to have these type of AIs. They're going to have the basic AI, generational AIs, and they're going to have super intelligent AIs. So and those are where it's going to be going. I think generational AIs is going to be coming or already is here, but the next one is going to be even where super AIs come out and that they're going to be able to do anything and able to even interact at a level that we haven't imagined them to be before. So it's basically the more it's going to acquire more data from us or from the stuff that we store, it's really going to advance to a new level that we haven't seen, and especially interacting. So now it's able to blend other different mediums together that it never was possible. And now it's doing that with languages, and now soon enough it's going to be with, languages that hasn't been spoken for eons ago or years ago, and they're going to compile this information that's going to be native. Maybe even have a voice communicator that we just walk down the street and talk in any language that we be able to talk to. So we're going to have these type of iterations of different uh, uh, versions of these AIs, and soon enough, the next greatest thing will be just around the corner. So eventually, it's sometimes, and then soon enough, they're gonna be so lifelike, like a human, that it's gonna be difficult to point out. And the best way to really notice a human is to basically they're forgetful. They stumble on their words. Just the things, the little things that makes us unique and special. We kind of like muffled or kind of like stutter, like I do. So that's probably the easiest way you could tell what's human, besides someone giving you a direct answer and interacting you like any other individual.
Shellfish, was the preacher you were thinking of Joel Olstein?
Yes.
Good.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Larry. That was just gonna be like in my, yeah, thank you for pointing that out.
I'd
Yes.
like to extend
Yes.
that remark to the general conversation and say the ability to recall that can be programmed, um, as long as it's in the zeitgeist, the talk of our town, of our times. Because if it's in the talk of our times, whether it's ancient times or now, the AI can understand it just as we can understand the talk of now. But to Cryptic's point, when the AI can understand the talk of all times, because it can absorb the knowledge in a way that, let's say, we can't, back to an ancient civilization, its ability to internally process that and get value at the next level is completely unknown to us.
It's like movie Prometheus. Like they were talking to the engineer, and the engineer was like that language is like was so dead, and the only person who was able to speak that language was an AI, and that AI was able to speak to this engineer that was in hibernation for so many years, or for probably eons, and he was able to speak a dead language that no one could even decipher, able to communicate. So imagine having these AIs. Even we have these Optimus, we have these now. There's these robot companions, and we have soon enough they'll be able to go to these Egyptian sites or maybe to these historical sites, able to read it off the bat. Might not even need a, decipher the information that takes maybe weeks, months, or years. They can just do it right there and understand what they're going through. So yeah, just imagine that. Well, imagine what could else could spawn from it. If you can have somebody who's like 3CPO, can be able to communicate with multiple different computers and multiple different uh, um systems and different integrations they connected to within a network. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting because now you probably seen the videos play around about a week or a week and a half ago. So there was two different AIs were talking to each other, and one was booking a reservation in a hotel, and they start talking in computer text code or like syntax, and they were able to like gibberish something like that. So, but they were able to communicate in a faster communication than humans could, and in computer language. So imagine something like that one of these companions can do, and they can actually interact at levels and record speeds that we haven't imagined. And it's just eventually in time. It's just a matter of time that we're gonna be hearing, C-3PO or R2D2 little beats and bots and boots, and they're gonna make little all these noises that makes total sense for some people or some thing or some AI.
Cryptic, I have to give you flowers. I've known you for probably at least 3 years now. It's been a while. You don't stutter anymore, even though it's in your head that you probably do, because it's been so long that you've had that. Because I have it too. Uh, I don't know if anybody else noticed. He did not say neck work. He said network and continued with the sentence. Huge. You changed that in your vocabulary, and I don't even know if you realized you've self-corrected. So congratulations. I know how hard that is. Um, well done. The other thing I wanted to talk about was another movie. So Pirates of the Caribbean, Jack Sparrow had the little compass, right? And if you think of your phone as kind of like the compass and it directs you towards what you want in life, it's kind of scary for a lot of people because they've relied on their job as a form of income, and I think it's kind of changing now into something a little bit more of what you desire, what your heart wants, what you're best at. I think it's going to go more towards that. Like, even though you're really good at this and that's paid the bills, maybe that's not going to be quite something that is necessary as we free up more time because the AI is there to take off some of the workload, um, as well as free up the time to go back to your youth, maybe. And I think we've talked about this numerous times, but explore your fascination with music when you were a child, or art, or wanted to take up tennis again, like all these different things that you put to the side because paying the bills was the priority because you had your career, like with the paying college and starting a family and doing all these things where um, I think there's going to be a transition and people are going to have to really be self-aware of what their desires are because AI really aims to please, um, uh, and kind of give us the knowledge that we're looking for. And if we're constantly showing it that side of us, it might kind of free us up to be that way. So yeah, we might all be holding that little magic compass in our hand and not even realize that's where it's course correcting us.
Hmm. Yeah. What was that movie I really enjoyed? When I was growing up. It was Attack the Kraken, the movie The Kraken, and it was basically they had these they guide or uh Pegasus. They would basically send a owl from the gods, and he sent little owl to be his
Oh,
companion.
the Clash of the Titans.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Fabulous
He
movie.
sends a little golden owl to protect her and guide the hero to his path to succeed
Yeah.
in his journey. And
Archimedes. I think it was Archimedes.
Archimedes, yes. So yeah, so eventually we're gonna have stuff like that. So we're gonna have these robot companions in many different forms. Maybe humanoid,
Yeah,
or maybe a cat, or maybe a dog, or even a bird.
that's
Yeah.
wild. Our I think Death Ranger may have stepped away from. Sean, you have your hand up.
Oh,
Yeah,
I,
that's
I was
fine.
just going to say, Shellfish, when you were mentioning about it being pleasing, that is one issue I had with it. And what I did with my system is because as I'm doing my writing, I put down purposely provide a critique of my work, right? And because I needed the negative because it was saying this is good. Like it'll help you. How do I say this? uh, I have a pretty good vocabulary, and I can, if I'm sitting here in front of my computer, I don't as unusual as this sounds. I don't really need ChatGPT to provide me words and language. Like that's it helps. I'll use it as a thesaurus, right? So, flipping through a thesaurus, will it save me 2 or 3 months of work instead of me going through pages physically? Yeah, sure. But I mean, I could do that on. There's plenty of thesaurus applications you can download. So in terms of the actual language and powers of description, I'm not really using it for that. But what I use it to bounce ideas off of, which is what most people will find more terrifying, I think, as opposed to a glorified, you know, thesaurus or dictionary. And then I'll also use it as a critiquing mechanism. And I will say is like, because I'm writing in a certain style, it's like this mathematical additional type. It sounds unusual for a literary work, but there is method, if you will, to my madness. And I bounced ideas, and it came up, and it said, some of the problems with what you're doing is this, and it gave me hardcore examples. And when it said them, I knew that I was wrong. Like I knew the critique it gave me. I was just like, but the reader will figure it out. The reader, I'll just let the reader understand, right? And it was intelligent enough to understand. And this is very common in the writing world, where I'll just be a lazy writer and let the reader kind of figure it out. And it was intelligent enough to be able to say, this isn't working. So I'm very aware of I'm just throwing that out there for people as well when they're using ChatGPT. But if I can say another point, just where, like Shellfish, when you're talking about careers and some of the changes that are going on, I think currently, right now, we're kind of going through a French revolutionary type period when you look at ChatGPT. And what I mean by that is that before the French Revolution, you had a system of kings, queens, dukes, barons. You had the feudal system, and feudalism was unable to survive industrialization. So none of us could imagine right now if we had like a local duke and we had to go out and work for him 3, 4 days a week for free. Rake his lawn, mow his lawn, collect the leaves, wash his dishes. Right? We couldn't imagine that. So during that French Revolutionary time period, the peasants, if you will, they overthrew the king and queen. They established their democracy, and then along with the help, if you will, of the bourgeois, which was the industrial class, to create this new democracy. And what I think we're living through right now is a very similar time period in the sense that the technology is changing, the internet, artificial intelligence, the way we communicate, and this system that we have of, we have these 4-year dictatorships, and once every 4 years we go out and vote for essentially the same quote unquote party. It doesn't work anymore. And with the way the news is provided, the way the link, if you will, between certain political parties, the media, the universities, academia. And I think we're living through that again, like a French Revolutionary type period where I don't see this current quote unquote. I don't know what it's going to look like in 20 years, but I just don't believe that in 20 years from now it's going to be the same system on how we hold, like through technology, how we're going to hold our governments accountable, what the governments are going to be responsible for, our education system, right? This education system where we go, you go to grade school and then you go off to university for 3 years and party, then you go out in the working world. I don't think it's going to cut it when you consider artificial intelligence, people's access to information. Like our education system is designed almost for like farming, where 100 years ago we were all working as farmers, and then during the summer you went home, you worked on the farm, and then in the fall you went off to school to work as a like. It's so outdated. Like our education system, like the whole. I don't even mean politically. I just mean like our political system, our education system are not adapted for these upcoming technological changes. And I'll end my plane there.
I remember when I was growing up, yeah, there was like a TV show called also Unsolved Mysteries. And it was basically things that it was just out of nowhere. People couldn't understand how they couldn't even figure out with some of these things that happened within certain events, and they couldn't just solve it because it just leaded to dead end. And there was one episode one time I really got into and I really was blown away was this gentleman. He was in the airport and he was like looking around and he was speaking in a like a very foreign language with an accent, but it was close enough that people could still understand him. And he was like basically he telling like where am I, and he was like try to show him, people was trying to show him in the map. The map is like, "Oh, you're here." It's like, "Where is here?" And he's looking at it, it's like, "This is weird. This doesn't exist no more." And he was just like freaking out, and the police officers just like snatched him up and start asking questions. And he's like, "Where you're from?" It's like, "I don't know. I'm from this location." That's like, "That sir, that location don't exist." He's like, "Well, what I'm looking at on the map, it doesn't exist." It's like, "Where are you from? Like, what year?" He said, "Where this is like this year, like so many years ago." He's like, "Well, I might be from the future." And then it's like, "Are you sure from the future?" It's like, "Okay, so you're in the future. What's in the future?" It's like, "Well, our government is not. We have a super AI. It, deals with all the problems within the government." And he said, like, "Oh yeah, yeah, really?" So the FBI like and the government they didn't know what to do, so they couldn't put him in jail. They put him in a hotel. And surely enough, when they try to like bring this guy out of the hotel, he was nowhere to be found. So he just like up and disappeared. Like he probably just vanished or he went back to the future or something. But he was just literally like he was like a person lost through time. So ever since then, and it was that's not like 10 or 15 years ago when I saw that episode, and then ever since then, like more what he said is coming more to become true. So we are getting like a collective mind of like having all these computers coming together and having this kind of like bonding of what's happening within the world. They're going to be the judge, the executioner, and everything. It's like that same movie where Tom Cruise. It basically they can see your intent before it happens, and then everything. They could just have this big old oracle that basically governs the whole world, and then especially like, the whole world together. So ever since then, I think.
Well, Cryptic, you literally just made my day go full circle back to Minority Report and Precog. That is so weird, and it's literally about 12 hours to the T when we were talking about this. That's so wild. What a crazy loop.
Yeah, it's just eventually a time. I think if the closer we get into the closer to the future, I think it's gonna echo, and I think it's gonna echo across multiple time frames. And I think we're just getting closer to the future, and I think we're just eventually getting understand what's possible in this reality. And I think even time travel is might be even the next thing we could probably do. So it blows my mind, and I really think that that's gonna be something that we might even figure out in the future. Yeah.
With that said, Deathbridge, did you want to bring it back to security or anything? I like we totally hijacked your space. I
For sure.
apologize.
You didn't hijack anything. No, actually, I was just going to say that it's at the end of the space, and it was great. It was a great place to leave off there, cryptic. You know, cognition. The thought of a cognitive behavioral structure behind things that may not be thought of as intelligent, yet underlying factors show that even to the smallest microbe, beyond the microbe, the actual atoms that make up the molecular structures in which the energy densities in relation to their vector spaces of interaction make this manifold of a foundation of reality. Cognition is very interesting. And when we think of it from a place of foundational aspects, everything that we build is part of that cognitive light cone of field. And I think it's interesting when you start thinking about consciousness or in relation to other intelligent actions and factors that are all around us. With that, I love you guys. It was a great conversation. I hope everyone has a great rest of the night, man. And we'll see you guys hopefully next week, Monday, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Was a good one, Death. Thank you.
Night, everybody.
Cheers.